something I always live by is like you can be critical but not dismissive, and you can be respectful but not submissive of someone. But
that was
like,
a bar.
Yeah.
That was a bar.
Sorry, can you repeat that? Repeat that.
Like,
that was a clip. What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode 44. Wow, 44 of the Thoughtful Banter podcast. I'm your host, Mahdi, with my co-host, Hussein.
Yes, sir.
And today we're joined by the wonderful Rida Ali. Rida, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's lit. We're really trying to like be more consistent, have on more guests. So thank you so much for helping out with that.
Yeah, no, I'm excited.
Rida, there's a lot to go through. We want to have you on for several reasons, but I'm going to just read, not even like a proper bio, but just some facts about you, just so the audience can have a better idea of who you are. You graduated NYU, right? And I'm reading here, I did like a bunch of research last night. You studied global studies with a concentration on politics and human rights and development, with a minor in South Asian studies, right?
Yeah, by the end of my 4 years, I had changed it. I did global studies, and my concentration was in media and South Asian studies.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're right now, you got your bachelor's, congratulations. You are now pursuing your master's, right?
Yes, I am moving to London in a month for my master's.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
And what's your master's going to be in?
It's going to be in South Asian studies and journalism.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's dope. Those are the vibes.
Yeah.
So it's like the vision for you, just like pursuing journalism full time?
Yeah, I really am interested in like telling authentic stories and like learning about communities that are like important to me and that I identify with. And I feel like London is the place to do that. And the school that I'm going to and the program I'm going to, it's like very diverse compared to like any other options that I had. So I'm really excited, and I feel like I'm really looking forward to like move to a new city that's like in the middle of the world, really. Like London is like what people consider the capital of like the middle of like the world, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you moved from one city to another, right? Like
Yeah.
one big city to another.
Yeah,
so,
and like what do you do after New York City? Like there's no other place that compares. So like London is the next comparable thing.
Next best thing, yeah.
I was about to say, like, New York, crazy. London, crazy. Like, you are probably definitely more of a city person.
Yeah,
I
I'm gonna
take
retire after London and like go to like freaking California.
That's vibes. You were just in California too, right?
Yeah, I was in the Bay. I had like a work event in LA, and then I went to the Bay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vibes. And like, so why, just curious, so why journalism? Because we've been following you for a couple years now, and I always thought like, oh, like you wanted to be like more of an influencer, just because like I saw like you're making like a ton of content, and your TikTok is blowing up. You have so much content
Yeah.
on TikTok, actually, which we'll get into. But like, why journalism specifically?
Yeah, I feel like the whole influencer thing is fun, but it's only like a means or like a vehicle to like the actual end, which is being able to like talk about the things that are really important to me and enact change. And I think people look at social media as like this superficial thing, but it's really depends on how you use it, because like you can do journalism with your social media. Like if you have people who are following you, instead of just using it for like your own personal things, like you can post about things that are happening around the world, like raise money. And so like social media is so fun for me, but I just think that it's not the end goal. Like I think the end goal is something really meaningful, and social media is like a building block to that. And in general, I think I chose journalism and I'm choosing media because I just love being creative, and I love doing things that are like meaningful to me. And when I was originally doing politics, human rights, and development, I was missing the creative aspect. Like I was thinking of doing like consulting or like development or like politics, but then I was missing the idea of like, or like the side of me that's very creative, that loves taking videos and pictures and like telling stories in like a visual way. So I combined the both, and I'm like very happy with it. And I think in the world that we're in, the independent creator space is getting so big, and there's so much of an opportunity to like do cool work that isn't like a job, you know?
Yeah.
Like how you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Trying to do.
Yeah.
I think, and I really like how I ask, because it's common nowadays, like for our generation, right? It feels like, and I can't cite the statistics, but I've heard before, like if you ask, like 20 years ago, when you ask children what they want to be when they grow up, you hear like very commonly astronaut, scientists were like the answers thrown around.
Astronaut
but now
was mine.
yeah, right. Yeah. Like so everyone thought being astronaut was the coolest thing.
Firefighter, cop.
Yeah.
Not a cop, but
Yeah,
No,
felt that. Yeah, not a
other
cop.
people. Other people.
yeah.
Pigs
Not
are haram. But yeah, and now I've heard like if you ask like the average teenager, everyone wants to be an influencer,
or YouTuber,
TikToker, and I
Yeah.
think it's because, well, for one, like this idea of like fame is obviously like interesting to everyone, right? And also it's like it's a great avenue of like financial freedom, right? But I like having how do I say this? I like having contingency goals. I'm really interested when people want to be multiple things at once.
Yeah.
So for instance, I think it's cool to want to leverage having an audience, being an influencer, right? Because it has many benefits. And it's also cool at the same time to have like a real life steady job that actually benefits society.
Mm-hmm.
So it's dope basically.
Yeah.
Being an influencer at the same time having a career, because I think it like that makes you like twice as strong.
Yeah. I also like when people ask me, I actually never tell people I'm like a influencer. Like I never associate that word with myself. I'm like, oh, I make content online. I feel like that just is more like aligned with what I do, because when I think of influencer, I think of like fashion, like lifestyle, which is all really cool, but I just don't want my social media to be that. I want to like make cool videos about like places that I'm traveling to or like important things that are happening in the world. So yeah, I feel like influencer has like a weird connotation to it.
It
but
does.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
It does.
And like it's usually just like people who take pictures of themselves, like make dancing TikToks. Like
Yeah,
I've never done that in my life. Like
influencer is pretty vague, so it can, like some people hear influencer, they think like Mr. Beast or something, right?
Yeah.
And then others are like they're thinking like the Kardashians, which is like
or like TikTokers, yeah.
Or like TikTokers, you know. It's like either way, I don't really want to be associated with that. I just make important content to me.
Yeah,
And if you
exactly.
enjoy it, you enjoy it.
Yeah.
And it's all, and it just happens to be online.
Yeah.
You know.
The name itself is like is pretty negative. Like influencer, like that name means like I feel like that name comes from like marketing like companies that look at influencers as people who influence masses. So like, we're gonna pay these influencers, right?
Yeah.
But it's like I don't feel like influencer is a name that's created by people themselves who make content.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel like it came from there first. I feel like people who make content usually call themselves content creators, right? Or creatives. And influencers is like how media companies view us, right? Oh, we're gonna NordVPN wants to sponsor this video. Well, let's pay these influencers. You know,
Yeah.
this person's got like 100,000 people reach, right? In this demographic, they're an influencer. But that person's
it's all
just
numbers.
Yeah.
I want to. You mentioned that you got into media and you went away kind of from like the politics and like the consulting side. We have enough consultants. I'm so glad you did that. Because you were kind of missing that creative angle and the creative aspect. I know you recently published or created a booklet called Sacred Spaces with a whole bunch of photographs of sacred spaces. I just want you to give us a little bit more about that. Like, what was it? What is it about? What caused you to make it? Stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I actually so kind of backstory, like I never actually had a goal to like get followers online. Like I was just posting what was cool to me and it started like blowing up.
That's the best way to do it. Organic growth.
Like I was never like, oh, I want this many followers or like I'm going to post this to get like numbers or whatever. I just was posting things that were cool to me, and I guess some people thought it was cool to them too. And so I travel a lot, and like I am like very spiritual, and like my faith is like a really big part of my identity, which I think is cool when you have a public persona, because there's so many bad perceptions of religion in like Islam, especially like Shia Islam. So I started traveling, and I was like posting photos of really like cool like places and cities that I had been to, like Medina and Mecca and Najaf and Karbala, and like doing these pilgrimages and really like documenting them. I think like we miss documenting a lot of our like rituals and practices, and like that's cool because they're just somewhere then. Like people in 100 years will look back at it and be like, oh, like people did this, you know? So I started documenting it online, and I think having work online is really cool, but there's just something so special. I think the permanent way that people leave a legacy in this world is having something written or having something published, because online it's going to become like so saturated. And like, for example, some of these authors in this library, like they're dead, but the work is like there for you to look through. And I think that was cool. And also the idea of having something in people's houses that they could open that would just like take them back to a sacred place, even though they're like in their living room, like that was really cool to me. And that was the goal. Like I didn't make any money off of it. All proceeds went to like the flood victims in Pakistan. But the only thing I really got out of it was having something meaningful that I did in like someone's coffee table or like in someone's house. And yeah, it was really fun for me, like compiling all of that and like using my religion to like make something creative.
Yeah, I mean, you literally like made a little ziyara.
Yeah,
like we
yeah,
have,
that was
like,
that was the goal. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so like someone opens it and they travel.
Yeah,
take that their hearts travel to those places because they see them. It's pretty cool.
No, thank you so much.
I really like a lot of those pictures. Like for anyone who's been on ziyara, like they perfectly capture like the emotions, the feeling, like that experience.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is really cool about, like, I think how you think is interesting in regards to you're saying like I want to publish this because it is more tangible, right?
Yeah.
Like if everything we have is just online, that's all just in like some kind of cloud server somewhere,
Yeah.
right? Like it can all just be deleted or you know something happens to the server, but it's cool to have like something tangible.
Yeah.
And that really like takes people there.
Yeah.
And it's also interesting like the way you talk about it. You're saying like it being just like on someone's coffee table.
Yeah.
Like it really makes it seem like you're not just thinking about like we're talking about earlier, like, oh, I just want to get like X amount of views on this thing. It's like there is something tangible about like you don't know how many people, but someone somewhere in the world, maybe 50, 80 years from now, is going to have this, you know, this photography book stowed away in like their mom's library, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, they're going to take it down from the shelf and open it up.
Yeah, like my great-great-grandkids are going to be like, wow, this girl was cool as hell. Like,
Yeah.
she like made this book. Like, she like traveled the world. Like,
Yeah.
and if they don't ever get to see it or if they don't get to do that and they're 5 years old, they'll be like, I want to go to these places one day. Like, that's cool. Like, that's your legacy, you know?
Yeah.
So.
It outlives you too. So
Yeah, exactly. Like there's few things that outlive you in the world, and like your work is one of them. So
That's a sadaka jariyah that we're
Yeah.
talking about, right?
yeah,
So,
it's like the good that
inshallah.
keeps giving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally.
It's the vibes. And like, do you want to do more projects like that, or?
Yeah. I'm really big on doing things with like physically doing things. Like when we're doing things online and in spaces, we're just so tied into like a screen, and I love that. Like I love being online and I love social media. Like I don't think it's a bad thing at all if you use it the right way, but I think there's like that God created the whole world. Like when I was making that book, I was like rearranging things. I like had a whole board up on my room. Like it felt like I was doing something, and like I was using my mind and like using my eyes and like traveling. Like it felt like really just like a full circle factory experience. Like I went, took the pictures, printed them, like had them next to each other, like storyboarded the order. And I'm really big on that. Like I'm big on like going out and like experiencing things, and then like obviously process it and put it on social media. But there's something really special about like physically using your body to like create something, and like using your hands and like being artistic. So that's like a really big thing for me, which like I hope I never let go of, no matter how online the world gets. Like always have that aspect of like doing things and experiencing things outside of social media.
And like, are there any other projects you have in mind specifically, or are you not allowed to talk about them yet? Are you trying to keep them a secret from us?
No, yeah, I have like a bunch really. Like I want to make like a video archive of like some of the things that we do as Muslims. Like what does Ramzan look like in Turkey? You know, like what does Ramzan look like in Pakistan, like in different countries? Like I have so many ideas. And I really hope that I'm able to do them. And like the TikTok, for example, like I just have been making like video series on like history of like Pakistan and like of Muslims in America. Like that's fun for me, and I want to do more of that. But I think once I get this master's, that's when I'll make like a plan for the future. You know, like I really just want to be like educated on something, and like I want to like complete this so I have like something that I've done. And like, because I think a lot of people on the internet, they talk out of their like like they're like super like they're just like on the internet like saying whatever. Like I want to be learned and like do the hard work and then like make a plan forward, you know?
So that's like the limiting factor. I'm assuming basically you want to get your master's.
Yeah, like
Okay.
I've always known that I wanted to get my master's, and like I'm gonna be honest, like as a woman, people always undermine you, especially when you're Muslim and you wear hijab. And I think like I always wanted to like get my master's. I always wanted to like have that under my name and like have these projects that I can be like, yeah, like I've done that, because being a woman in a creative space and being like a woman online is not the same thing as like being a guy, you know? Like I
Being
think
us.
people are always ready to like say something or be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, which I do. Like
Yeah.
I've done research on it. So yeah.
Yeah. So give them no excuse, basically. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
uh-huh.
Like, no, I like have done a master's on this, inshallah. Like I'll do a PhD on whatever. Like I want to like be educated so nobody can point fingers, which is sad that you have to do that, but you know, it's fine. I love learning.
You
so.
want to be ready to clap back, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
Like,
what?
you can't talk to
I
me
do
like,
know.
Yeah, like, exactly. Yeah.
Do you also think that, because I know you're pursuing it in journalism and media, right?
South Asian studies and journalism.
In
Yeah.
South Asian studies and journalism. I
Yeah.
completely got that wrong.
Yeah.
But anyways, do you also feel like it might add some more integrity, not just for people outside of it, but like for yourself as well. Like if you know these journalistic principles, maybe you can apply them and create better content that adheres to these principles, and so people can kind of digest it better. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And I also, there's something that I like have learned, which I'm really proud of. And I think it's the ability to admit when you don't know a lot about something or when you're wrong about something. I think it's such a beautiful thing to be like, oh, I was wrong about this 3 years ago and I've done more research and now like this is my opinion. I think people are scared to do that because like the internet is so permanent and like people just like don't want to admit that they're wrong. I think it's so powerful to always be admitting that I was wrong 5 years ago, I was wrong about this, and like I've done more research. Like that shows you're just so open to growing as a person, and that's why I love learning, because I'm always challenging what I previously thought was true, and I think that's really important. And as young people, I think that that's like what is going to help us grow, like is admitting we're wrong and learning and like not feeling like people are going to judge us for it. Like our egos are so big, and I think we should just know that we're human. Like we don't know anything. Like the more that we know, the more we realize we don't know. So
yeah. I mean, that was very well said. Especially considering like the online space makes it so easy for your ego to just grow. You know, you get all these views, all this attention, all these like different likes on your posts and stuff, and you're like, oh, I'm really that guy.
Yeah, like I know everything. Like,
and it doesn't even take a lot. Like it's very funny. You can see like how fragile like your own ego is. Like I would never have considered myself to be like someone who's arrogant. But I remember like when we had that one Andrew Tate clip that got like 50,000 views, and I'm seeing all these Andrew Tate fanboys commenting. I have a different side of myself. I'm like, I'm clapping back at these comments, and I'm like, whoa, relax, you know.
And that's what our religion teaches us too. It's important to remember like what your Islamic values are in any situation you're in and online too.
Yeah,
and I think that's definitely like it's interesting you brought that up, because I was just about to say like, although you didn't say like, oh, I'm doing this because I'm Muslim, I think it's really obvious to see like that's an Islamic principle, like the way you're thinking about like, well, let me be careful about like what I say first. You know, like you have that awareness, which is something that like I think as Muslims is a gift to us. And you see it's like really common right now, like in any Muslims in like the social media space who like are at all even just like a little bit religious, they think about like, do I really want to have like all these TikToks out of me like saying things that like maybe like in 5 years I wouldn't agree with, right? I remember Zunair was saying something similar to himself, right? Like he's gone completely like almost AFK on social media just because he's like, I just, you know what, like I don't want anything to do with this anymore, right? Just because he has like that same kind of like that thoughtfulness, he's being careful like what he wants to put out into the world. And
I think it's important to like, I believe in living your Islam, not like your Islam just being like your religion, like 10% of your life. Like I think everything you do, everything you consume, like when you have kids, like when you go grocery shopping, when you're consuming media, like you are Muslim in all of those instances. And Islam is like a lived holistic experience. And I think people just limit it to like praying 5 times a day and like going to the masjid. But like the way you interact with people, the way you act online, like that is you practicing Islam or like remembering your Islamic values. And I'm like very big on like incorporating Islam holistically. Like even when people pick a career, I'm like, is this Islamic? like you know, like so like is working for the Department of Defense Islamic? like you know, I mean we live in the DMV, so like I'll get like a lot for that.
Like, it's like so many people here. Like, even if it's not like DOD, it's like everything is government adjacent. Like all the money here, if you follow it, it goes straight to the government.
Yeah, or like, oh, like I'm an engineer working for like a military, like
Deloitte.
or like Boeing. Like you're literally making, like you're literally making like defense weapons. Like you know.
Yeah. But I mean that's a good point, and a lot of people. I mean that point you said about living your Islam is something that we've said on the podcast so many times. Otherwise, there would be no incentive for us to not live like monks, right? The idea would be to live like monks and be ascetics, and we'd just be in our house praying all the time, praying 5 times a day, doing our dua. But there is that emphasis on like communal living. There is that emphasis on doing things with other people. Because there is that growth and that spirituality in being with other people, even if it's difficult. So I know a scholar talks about like, if you had to go to war, for example, and you had an injury and you got PTSD and you came back, you were being spiritual, and you dealing with that PTSD for the rest of your life is a spiritual battle now too. You know, you go to the masjid to pray, and then there's little kids running all around trying to break your concentration, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's all you practicing religion, like giving charity, like being kind, like interacting with others in like a nice way. That's all Islam, you know.
And I think
great point.
I think we we oversimplify Islam as a tactic to make it easier to practice, right? Because it's easier to practice a religion if you just are able to put different places in your life. Like if you're able to organize things in your life into different boxes, you know? So it's like, oh, when I'm going to work, that's not religious.
Yeah.
So therefore I can have any kind of job and I can have any kind of conversation with my coworkers and whatnot. But when I go to the masjid, that's just religious. Because as long as I go to the masjid, I'm just religious. I don't have to be accountable for my other actions, you know? And that's why it's like, it's hard in this world, right? Because like, this is and this thing keeps coming up on Thoughtful Banter and in life in general. I think when things keep coming up, I think it's because like they're true, right? Because like the truth remains after like everything happens, like that stays because it's true, right? And I think like a truth is difficult to balance things that feel like as humans like opposing factors.
Yeah.
Like it's hard, for example, like it's easy to be humble when you're not strong, but it's easy to be arrogant when you're strong. And Islam doesn't want you to be weak. Islam doesn't want you to be humble just because you're weak. Islam wants you to be strong and humble. It's like, that's easier said than done. Like it's easy to be humble when you don't have any power.
Yeah.
Right? Like a mouse isn't virtuous for being humble. A mouse is a mouse. A lion is virtuous for being humble. Right? So like that's the difficulty, right? And like even going back to like social media, like someone could say like, oh, like like my social media profile is like you know I don't my content's all super halal whatever, right? It's like, yeah, you don't have any clout either. Like, you know, but it's like when you're trying to engage in the social media space, it's like, well, I'm trying to, you know, I'm making content, I'm publishing publicly, so I want people to view it. How do I post this how do I make content that's engaging but also isn't like cringe inducing, you know? It's like it's difficult.
Yeah, it is difficult, but I think it's important to like stick true to your values and like not give them up just because you think it's gonna get you like a lot of followers. So
I mean, how did you navigate that kind of like battle, if you will?
I think before you start anything like that, you have to make sure you know who you are and like what your values are. And I don't think I've ever felt like there have been brands that have reached out to me or like people have reached out to me and been like, oh, can you like work with me on this? And like I was just like, no, like it's not authentic to who I am, or I don't care about it so much. Like so I think that was like a big thing for me, is like I need to be doing it for the right reasons, and I need to be like very passionate about what I'm doing and what I'm posting. Otherwise, like what's the point, you know? What's the point in like putting in all this work and like having a social media presence? But yeah, I think really knowing who you are before you start putting anything out into the world is really important, because then you're just going to be able to like fall over and like have anybody knock you down or like take you with them into like and like influence you in any way. So yeah, I just think like knowing yourself is important.
That's what Malcolm X says, right? If you don't stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Something like
that.
That's not verbatim.
Not verbatim. We'll edit it.
Yeah.
We'll edit it, make it seem like I know what I'm talking about. So I was actually going through your TikTok, and I found this one that actually completely blew me away. So apparently, this is according to your TikTok, apparently Princess Diana fell in love with some Muslim Pakistani guy.
Yeah.
no one talks about this.
Yeah.
How did you even figure out that story?
I just like really love reading about Pakistan and India, and like I'm really just like into history, and also this was on like The Crown. But yeah, that's like one of the ones that blew up, and I was like, bro, why didn't my one about like flooding in Pakistan blow up?
Yeah.
Like, why are people so interested in her dating life? But it's fine. Some of my videos are just like historical, like little stories and anecdotes like that. But yeah, I just like read a lot, and like then I find things interesting and I'm like, oh, I'll make a video about this. But yeah, she did in fact date a Pakistani Muslim guy.
Like all the Pakistani guys are like, flex.
They're like, we have a chance now like, with the white girl.
We got Riz.
Yeah.
What you know about that Riz?
Yeah. No, but I love reading about history, so I like find myself in these rabbit holes sometimes.
That was really interesting. So, and I guess slightly related, but pivoting. You're working at BuzzFeed right now, right? And you're working with like content strategy.
Yeah, like social media and content strategy. Yeah.
Okay, what is that like working at BuzzFeed?
It's so fun, dude. Like when I was in my senior year of college, I was like, I really don't know what I want to do. Like I know I want to have a job for a year and then go to grad school, and I just want to get like experience. But I wanted to do it at a company that had a lot of opportunities and like a big name, and I had like this vision in my head, and like the name that was popping up to me was like BuzzFeed. I was like, no, that's like such a big company, whatever. But like low key, I like manifested it. Like I like just applied, and then I like got the job. And it's so fun. Like I don't see myself doing this for more than a year or like 2 years because it's very pop culture, like celeb oriented, which like that's not like my niche. But I really have fun with it. And there's so much to learn at a big company like BuzzFeed. Like we have celebs in the office, like filming things, which is really fun. And like I'm literally logged into like the BuzzFeed app every day on my phone. So I'm like, this is so crazy. Like you have such a big platform that you're publishing to, like it's actually crazy. Like you can just like post a selfie right now. Well, I'm not gonna do, but like yeah, like it's cool power. Because I have like a lot of hands-on experience. Like whenever something big happens, and sometimes it's something like really like superficial, like oh like this couple broke up, and like but sometimes it's like oh there's an earthquake that just happened in Syria and Turkey. Like what can we post on socials about it? Like that's when I really have fun. Like being Muslim and like being able to like be the person on the team who's like I want to cover this, or like we should make a post about this because nobody else is going to do it. Like being Muslim in these settings is like valuable, and it's cool to like interact with creatives. Like a lot of people who work at the company do social media like me, and yeah, it's like super fun. I think like I'm gonna get what I can get out of it, and then like after grad school I'll probably do something a little more like in my field, like less pop culture vibes. But this is really fun, and I believe in like getting experiences and like not closing yourself off to like learning, so I really like it.
So what exactly are you looking to do after your grad school?
I really want to like either work for like someplace like I don't know, like I really like the vibes of like AJ Plus or like Vice News or like Now This, even though Vice is going bankrupt, but like
old Vice was amazing.
Yeah,
it was like the last like 4 years.
Yeah,
I feel like their contents personally fell off.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you've seen that one Vice series, Road Tripping Across America. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Who's the Korean graffiti artist who did everything for Facebook? Do you know his name?
Are you talking about the one that was in beef?
Yeah.
I don't remember his name.
So the guy he's a millionaire or possibly billionaire, because basically this guy was a graffiti artist, and he got asked to do all the inside like decorations, like all the work for the first Facebook building, and he was like, don't pay me in cash, pay me in pay me in stock, right? And this is before Facebook blew up. Newsflash, they blew up. And he was just like literally like a bum, like pretty much like broke.
Yeah.
And he became like a multi-millionaire.
Some people are just lucky like that. They hit gold. Like
hit gold, and he made like amazing he's been like huge ever since, but he has a great series on Vice called Road Tripping Across America, and he's doing it with his nephew. And like they're just two like visibly Asian guys, and like they're going through like KKK town, like it's crazy. It's so amazing. You have to check it out.
I actually lived that experience. Like I was born in California, and then when we moved to Virginia, we drove across the country.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was like my immigrant parents and like me and my sister. So like I vibe with that.
Nova was a lot smaller back then. Like I guess what's considered Nova.
Yeah.
And then so there was a lot more of like the rural, what we could now call, I guess, Trump country.
Yeah,
like
dude.
Basically, once you leave Nova in Virginia, you're just like...
You drive 20 minutes south of my house, and there's, like, Civil War trails, which is crazy.
Confederate flags, Trump flags.
Yeah. But, like, like Vice and, like, Al Jazeera. But I also just think it would be cool to, like, do my own thing, you know? Like, make, small docuseries on things like what you were talking about, like road tripping across Pakistan, or like, I don't know, like this is what Arbaeen is like every year, like covering things like that haven't been covered. Granted, Arbaeen has been covered, like, alhamdulillah, like a lot of people go. But I think that kind of work is really cool to me. And then also just like having a master's, like it opens me up to like academia, and like I really don't believe in like limiting yourself to like one thing. Like I think we as humans are like a plethora of things, and like it's very like sad if we limit ourselves to like one thing, because we have so much potential. Like God gave us so many abilities and passions, and I think like don't let anybody ever tell you can't do everything you want to do, because like what else are we here for, you know? Like do everything you want to do, like be like a doctor and make videos and like write a book, you know? Like you have so many years and you are made with so much potential to do all of that. So
I really think like I really like the idea of having like multiple streams of income. I think it's really smart. Like if you have like a normal like journalism job, and you also like use your own brand to cover stories you want to cover, because like who can like earning more money doing the thing you love is great. And I think it'll also be like really cool to like, I think the cool side of being an influencer is having just more control of the money.
Yeah, and having like access to like different opportunities. Like the world becomes 10 times bigger when you're connected with people on the internet. Yeah.
For sure.
Any plans to write a book?
No. No, I'm not. I haven't done enough in life to write a book yet.
No, yeah,
Maybe
I
when
know,
I'm
I
like
know.
65.
I feel that. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like everyone nowadays is writing a book and is like, bro, what?
Either they write a book or they start a podcast. So
Yeah.
you guys
Yeah,
are in that group.
Bro, I hate like we got some comments on one video and it was like, this dude really said to his friend, bro, let's start a podcast. I was like, well, that's what happened. So going back to BuzzFeed, actually, I'm actually curious to know, like, kind of putting you on the spot. Don't feel pressured, but feel pressured. Because you work in like content strategy, you probably actually like have learned like a lot about like how to grow social media profiles and whatnot. I'm curious, could you actually give us any advice? Let's say I'm just throwing the scenario at you. You were like our content strategist, right? If you were managing Thoughtful Banter, what would you do to basically grow it?
Yeah, no, I think
Appreciate the free advice.
free
Free
social
advice,
media
yeah.
consulting. You know, a lot of people ask me this question, and I literally see how, like, on top of it, like, they literally hire people at BuzzFeed just, like, that's what I do. Like, we just do content strategy. But a lot of people have asked me this, and I think it's literally just, like, being consistent and, like, throwing something at the wall until it sticks. Like, literally post, like, 10 reels every week. Like, you know, like, be consistent, be authentic. Like, don't worry about doing what anybody else is doing, because people will follow you because you're like unlike anybody else. So I think being authentic to yourself, being consistent, and like being creative, trying out new like video styles and techniques. Like, sometimes I would do something and it wouldn't get any likes and it would like flop, but then I try something else and like it does really well. So I think being true to yourself and like knowing that what you guys are doing is unique, and like you don't have to copy anybody else who's doing really well, because they did well and now that's over, and someone's going to look at you one day and be like, oh, like they did really well too, inshallah. But yeah, I think like being consistent, posting reels, being creative, like being genuine is really important too, because people will interact with you and they'll be like, I'm going to share this because they're just such good people, you know, like I'm going to tell all my friends to follow them. Like, people see through ingenuity, or like, you know, like
Disingenuous.
yeah yeah kind of people see
Disingenuity.
through that really quickly, but like if you're genuine, people like will want to help you, and I think like caring about what you do is important, which you guys really seem to care about. But yeah, really being consistent. Like, when I tell you at BuzzFeed, like we post 75 things a day on Facebook. Or like 75 articles on like each channel, like 23 things a day on Instagram, like because it's like about engagement, like getting people to like interact. And also like reels are blowing up. Like, you can just post a reel of like a sandwich in sunlight and it will literally like, or
The
like
trending audio.
yeah, like
It's
you
crazy.
can like post a reel of like the way the leaves look right now, and people will be like, this healed my inner child. Like it's just like so crazy. And I think it's so cool that like it's like that happened to me once. Like, I posted a reel, and I literally never post reels on Instagram because I'm like, what is this? Like, what are reels? And it like blew up, and people from like Instagram tells you when someone starts following you from your reel.
Yeah.
I think I went up like 500 followers just from that one reel. Yeah, and like yeah, and I was like, bro, like this is cool. And I wouldn't have posted it if I cared a lot what people think, because like I feel like posting reels is a little bit more like, not many people do it. I also think just like not caring. I think that is like the biggest thing, because once I stopped caring what people think and I was like, I'm gonna do things that I'm passionate about. Like the talking videos, I was so nervous because I'm like, what does my voice sound like? Like, is this cringy? Are people interested in it? Like, who cares about Pakistan? But I'm so glad I did. Like, I have so much fun with it, and like people will judge either way. So just like do whatever you want to do. Like, literally be so cringe. Like, life is meant to be cringe. So
I mean, if you do it or you don't do it, you're still gonna
yeah,
be
like
hated
if you
on,
don't
so.
do it, people are gonna be like, what does this person even do? Like, what do they post? And
Yeah.
if you do it and it blows up, then like, who cares? You blew up, you know, like you did well.
Yeah.
It feels like, it really feels like a numbers game in the sense of like, you have to get over. This is something like we're by no means big, but like what I've realized with like in the last month, we've hit more views and like our total lifetime views. In this last month, we had like, I think like 50,000 views. That's just like on YouTube. And it's because I've just been uploading YouTube shorts.
Yeah, shorts
just
do really well.
constantly. And like I've realized like if you just hashtag shorts, YouTube is just trying to like compete with like Reels and TikTok at this point.
Yeah.
So they will just promote it, and it really
Yeah.
feels like you said, like if you just got to throw stuff on the wall.
Yeah.
Until it sticks, and like part of that, it's like I think to help me get over the like the whole, I guess I realized I had a fear of doing that because I was always caring about like, oh, like this thing has to work out.
Yeah.
What will people say if like it has like
Who
10
cares?
views?
Like-
But now I'm like, you know, like if you can't care about people's opinion if they're not even playing the same game
Game
as
as
you.
you, yeah.
Like we're playing the game of like of this, right? And it's like if anyone's no one who's actually playing the game would ever hate on you for like shooting a shot.
Yeah.
Anyone else who's thinking something negatively is like they're like on the side of the court thinking something, but like, bro, hop on the court, bro.
Yeah, that's like a huge thing. That was like should have been my first piece of advice, is like just stop caring what people think. Obviously, like in our community, like your reputation matters, but if you're not doing anything wrong, like if you're just posting videos, like people will always say something. Like an example of this, like my friend, her life completely changed. Like she's a med student, and like for years she's been like, I want to post like content to help people who are applying to med school. Like she's like, that like blows up, like this niche of like med student day in the life, or like here's how I studied for my MCAT. And I was like, dude, just do it. She's like, no, people are gonna think it's cringe, like people are gonna think I'm trying too hard. She just started posting, and within like 7 months she has like I think 30K, and it changed her life. Like people send her scrubs, and they send her like medical like materials, and like they're like, oh, can you post a video? She's having like an income off of this. And I'm like, imagine if you had stopped, or you had never done this because of what people thought. Like that is how important it is, because it can change your life, but imagine if you just never took that step, you know?
And at the same time, she's also providing like a useful service.
Yeah,
you know?
like she's helping people. Like so many first-gen immigrant, like children of immigrants are like, how did you pay for this? Or like, what are scholarships we can apply to? And I'm like, see, like you're helping people, and like who cares? Like, do you even care what people are saying right now behind your back if you're doing so well and you're helping people? Like,
yeah, I mean, like the amount of untapped potential and like scholarships, grant money that people like just don't know about and don't apply for. It's
we
crazy.
Need our people to like share with each other, you know, like the information. So
I saw, this is unrelated, but I have to say it now that we're on the topic. Someone was telling me about this one person who basically they got a full ride, and then they applied for like a couple other grants that they also got.
They were like making money off of going to college.
Yes, and they bought a house, bro.
No way.
I don't know about that. That's crazy.
God, that's crazy.
They bought a house,
they have a
bro.
full like side business going on. Like they're like renting it out to college students. Like
I'm saying
that's beautiful. I love
but I'm saying
system.
like this stuff is here to be used.
I mean, the system's playing you, so you play the system
Facts.
back.
I don't even think I wouldn't even classify it as playing the system.
Yeah.
You are operating within the system. It's just people don't know about it.
If you're operating within a corrupt system that steals from hundreds and thousands of students already, then why don't you steal from it back? Like,
facts. Snap.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on this school system. And that really shows like how like knowledge is how much just having some knowledge can get you. Like we don't even know about it, but if you just know that it's there, what's stopping you?
Yeah.
We're talking about the judgment thing. It's funny, like on one hand, and I know what you mean. Like you're saying, like, hey, like you're doing something positive. Who cares what haters think?
Yeah.
But on one hand, like it's like I feel like every Muslim kid knows one friend or someone like in their community who has a cringy TikTok page, like a brother who's just like posting jawline TikToks with like music. He's here the masjid. I'm like, you got no friends, bro. You got no friends, Rosie. You got to get bullied to stop that, bro.
It's his canon event. He'll look back at it like when he has a kid, and he'll be like, I'm glad I learned from
Or he's trying to
that.
get married. He's like, oh, like, her father's like showing like, this you, bro? This you?
Yeah. There is an online footprint, so always remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that's a good lesson, right? Like, you have to be intentional about the things that you do. Otherwise, I mean, that's what you said.
Yeah.
You know, be intentional, know who you are. Otherwise, because you don't want to be that person that grows through it and then looks back and is like,
yeah, exactly.
That actually did like kind of negatively harm my reputation for good reason.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you don't want to be that person.
That's something we kind of struggle with in with Thoughtful Banter, in the sense of like, you know, like sometimes like we'll cover a topic, right? And it's like we don't want to censor ourselves because we try to be really genuine, but at the same time, like there are some things that like if we talked about now, we could get canceled, or it's just like people would find a reason not to hear us out, but just jump to like conclusions.
Yeah.
Right. So it's hard, like on the and like being Muslim, right? Like being on the social media space, there's a lot of things we would love to talk about, but we can't talk about if you really care about your life, maybe, or like being employed, you know?
Yeah.
You show up to the masjid and someone like the uncles are looking at you
so
like,
big on like canceling or like making a judgment on someone based on one thing that they say, which is like, I think something I always live by is like, you can be critical but not dismissive, and you can be respectful but not submissive of someone. But
that was a
like,
bar.
That was a bar.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
That was a clip.
Like, I think when you're looking at someone and you respect them a lot, you should never take everything they say and be like, this is what I'm going to live by. And if you hate someone, they can still say something valuable and you can like learn from that. So you can be critical of someone but not dismissive, and you can be respectful of people but not submissive to them. Like, I think people make idols out of like people that they really respect in this world, and like they're okay. It's okay if they do something wrong, and like that's just them being human. Like, you can take what you can take from them, and that's it. And when someone is like someone you don't respect, they still might say something that you agree with, and that's okay. Like, I think we're so big on like totally labeling people as like good or bad, and I think that's where like the danger comes in, because we're all open to learning, and like we can just take pieces of like, we can just learn from like small bits and pieces from everybody, you know?
Yeah, I mean, on that point, even in like the negative judgment that you receive, sometimes there is still that wisdom, right? And so it's like I have to kind of remove myself from how I feel.
Some
about
people should be judged. No, I'm just kidding. Like, but
no,
yeah.
I mean, like, that's true. Some people should be judged. Like,
I love being humbled. I'm like, tell me everything that's wrong with me.
Like you know, if you're hypothetically someone who like walks into masjid like no shirt on, for example, like a dude, like you deserve to be judged and like shamed into putting something on.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And so like it's a part of, you know, taking yourself out of that moment and being like, okay, even though this person may have said it not nicely, right? Like they could have delivered it better.
Yeah.
I can still take something from this, and I probably should.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm really big on like, and people know this about me, whenever anybody tells me something about myself, like, oh, I don't agree with this, what you said, I'm so open to it, because they're taking a risk by telling you. Like, you can get mad at them, but I appreciate it. I'm always like, thank you so much for telling me this. Like, I never respond in a bad way, like, especially because a lot of the videos I make are like factual. Whenever I make a video on like Palestine or like, you know, like historical things, and someone reaches out and they're like, actually, like, you should read this book because this explains a different narrative, I'm like, thank you so much for telling me that. Like, who am I to be like, why are you reaching out to me and saying this? Like, I made a video, you know, like, who am I to say that? Like, I'm always open to like what I said, like learning and growing and admitting you were wrong, because that's a strength. I love doing that.
Yeah.
And there's always, even if someone is wrong in their criticism, there's almost always something to learn in it, because it's like, maybe someone's wrong about their critique of you, but you learn how you're perceived.
Yeah.
Like, there's been so many comments on Hussein and I, like from like the clips, and someone's maybe like roasting like what we're wearing or like how we're talking. I'm like, I think I'm right in what I said. Like, I did my due diligence. Like, I stand by my opinion, but maybe I sounded like I could have delivered it better.
Yeah, or made it less confusing. Like, I feel like I experience this a lot. Like, I'll go through a point and, you know, it's going all over the place and it's made into a clip, and then people are like, the takeaway they have from it is completely different than what I intended. And so I'm like, okay, I need to work on my delivery.
Never take it as a personal thing. Like, always just like use it and put it in the suggestion box and like look through it, you know? Even
if they're like, you know, this guy's such an idiot, he thinks this and that. I'm like, that's not what I think. But
like, why are they saying that?
The fact that you think that I think that means that there was a problem with how I said it.
In the way you were articulating it. Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. You know, I really like people who are like open to change, and like they're not so like, their ego doesn't take a hit every time you give them a suggestion. So
before we let you go, is there anything that like you want to shout out, or you want the audience to know? Plug to our millions of fans out there. How can people like reach you and support you?
I think like a big thing in this conversation has been about like social media, and like that's been like a big point. I think something that I hope everybody knows is that it's so important to like talk about something that's important to you on social media, and the end goal isn't like clicks or money. Like, that's just a really good byproduct of like what you're doing. But I think putting something important out there in the world and talking about something that you're passionate about, that is what sets you apart from everybody else, because everybody's gonna get like followers and clicks like based on whatever they're doing. But I'm really big on like doing something that's meaningful, and like at the end of the day, like when you're 65 or 70, you can be like, yeah, this is what I use this platform for. Like, this is what I use my life to do. I think like that is the most beautiful thing about social media and like media in general, and like the world that we're living in that's becoming so virtual, is like take so much advantage of it and like do good and like talk about things that you're passionate about, instead of just like, I don't know, like focusing on all the superficial things. But yeah, I think that you guys are doing that, and I think more people should be doing that too.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Rida's link tree will be the first link in the description of this video. So whether you're listening on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, I don't know. If you listen to Google Podcasts,
what is you doing?
You need to quit. Switch to another platform. But first link in whichever platform. If you're listening to this on Spotify or any kind of I was on the flow, but I lost. If you're listening to this on any kind of podcast platform, download it, like it, give a 5-star rating if it's on YouTube. Just like it, share with a friend, copy link. And go show Rida some support. Her Linktree will have her TikTok, her Instagram, her Amazon shop store.
I don't have that.
You don't have that?
No,
okay.
I disabled it.
Okay, got it. But yeah, support her, and people can still register for your book, right?
Yeah, it's all still available to order. It's in the Linktree too.
Okay, yeah. So go show her some support, and thank you so much for being a Thoughtful Banter.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.